Hello everyone, Jules here. Today I'd like to talk about a really interesting book about alchemy. That book is Alchemical Psychology by Thom Cavalli. Here is the book. It's quite a relatively thick book, but there's quite a lot of information in here, and it's such a worthwhile book. That's why I wanted to talk about it today. And alchemy is such an important subject, and it's actually got quite a strong relationship to the Golden Dawn and magic. And alchemy was very important to the Golden Dawn, and Israel Regardie actually wrote a book about alchemy called The Philosopher's Stone, which has already been reviewed on my channel. So this book is about alchemy, but it's also about alchemy in relation to psychology as well. And I'm going to talk a bit about that relationship and why this book is really useful, and it's informative, but it's really useful at the same time. I think alchemy is really important for the esoteric path, but I think the psychological part is overlooked quite a bit as well. I think some people know from the reviews on my channel about the relationship between alchemy and psychology, particularly the psychology of Carl Jung. And I've already done some videos about that. So this book is written from a Jungian perspective, but it's also a lot wider than that. So I think that part is really good, and that's what makes this book so different. So that's really good. Now this book was written a while ago, but it's still in print because it's a really great book, and it was very well respected around the time when it was first published. It was a type of book that a lot of people wanted at the time, and I didn't get it when it was first published. I held off for a number of years, but I'm really glad that I've got the book. I can see what all of the praise was about. So I'm going to talk about what's in the book, and I'm going to talk about why this book is really worthwhile getting. There are some reviews of this book on Amazon, and they're positive reviews. The only thing I don't quite agree with is that somebody has written a review saying something about, it's mentioned in this book about personality types. Now, that's like 1% of the book. So anyone who thinks that this book is going to be just some kind of mainstream psychology book, well, it's not really like that at all. And it mentions personality types rather briefly, because it's mainly talking about that in relation to the personality types of Carl Jung, from Carl Jung's theories. Okay, I'm going to talk about what's in the book. There's diagrams in the book. There's alchemical drawings, which of course is really important. The other great thing about this book is that at the back of the book, it actually tells you about each of the drawings that are in here. Who created them, what is the background to the image. That is really important, because I know there's a lot of alchemy books that have these wonderful alchemical drawings and illustrations. And they might very briefly say the time period that it was created, or maybe the artist, but this book actually gives you a background to those drawings. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what's in the book. So it gives a definition of alchemy to start with, which is important. And for each of the chapters, there is an alchemical drawing as well. So, you know, that's really good too. So you have a definition, what is alchemy, the characteristics of alchemy. There's a lot of information in this book. I mean, I'm going to mention all the different chapters, but each of the chapters has got a lot of information in here. Now, you can use this as a reference book. I'm not saying that you're going to be like overwhelmed with information, but it's not the type of book to read cover to cover, because it is really more like a reference book, but you could also use it as a workbook. You know, I've got these markers in here. I mean, I'm finding things in this book all the time. That's how useful the book is. And I think alchemy is overlooked a bit from the psychological perspective because, as it shouldn't be, because alchemy is really useful to do your inner work and get your own inner house in order. And anyone who's going to be doing ritual or magic, you really need to look at that, because otherwise your magic or ritual work, it's going to be scattered. It's not going to be focused. There's going to be misdirection of the outcomes, because you know, the focus isn't good enough. And some of that can be subconscious too. Sometimes we're not always aware of what is happening, you know, the underlying things. There could be some issue that's in the back of your mind, but it's actually affecting the outcomes of what you're doing magically or ritually. So that's why, you know, this is really important. Okay, so back to what's in each of the chapters. So you've got the definition of alchemy in chapter 1, the characteristics of alchemy. Chapter 2 is called the royal art, which is what alchemy is, the royal art of living consciously, which is what I was just saying a moment ago about any subconscious issues. So it's all, but it also mentions healing, because, you know, alchemy is about healing as well. The use of imagination. The 4 corners of the personality is really to do with these Jungian personality types. And there's also, part of that chapter 2 is also about becoming whole. Now, the idea about the 4 corners of personality, I think it's good to identify what type of person we are from that personality point of view. But you don't need to get too hung up on defining your personality type. It's just something to sort of be aware of or keep in mind. But that's what I was saying before. It's not really like some sort of mainstream psychology book where you're just focusing on identifying your personality type. But anyway, there's diagrams in here explaining how this is all going to tie in with alchemy and the 4 elements. Chapter 3 is called At the Threshold. And all of this is really useful because it's all to do with preparation for not only delving into alchemy, but also applying this as well, applying this to your life. This book is very much about that. You know, it's it's really interesting to be aware and find out about alchemy, but this book is really working on how to apply this in your life, and particularly from a psychological point of view. So at the threshold is to do with beginning to apply this in your life and to reflect and be aware of, all of the inner issues. So at the threshold, and this is all like a preparation for a type of alchemical initiation, which is really what this is about, because alchemy is supposed to be about transformation, and the old idea or the traditional historical idea about alchemy is to do with, transforming lead into gold. But this talks about the history of alchemy as well. But this is more about the inner transformation. But of course, this can take a long period of time. But this book is about how to approach that and trying different things. There's different kind of exercises in here, and just different ideas about all of that. So you've got at the threshold and directions on how to apply these for yourself. Then you have got preparation, and I like some of the things in the chapter 4 about preparation. It's all about the power of words. The power of words is really important for ritual or magic. And this magic, any magic that you're doing, this is all to do with the magic has to have a good foundation. It has to start with you. That's where the magic really is. The magic is, you're going to be able to affect change in your life if you are working with the foundation of yourself, which is what the Philosopher's Stone really is. So you've got this preparation, and he also talks about keeping a secret. He just says that it's a private thing, and it's like the idea of to keep silent. Keeping silent is a really well-known thing about magic. He doesn't really use the word magic in this, but this is what alchemy is about. This is why alchemy is so important. It was so important to the Golden Dawn. Then you've got the most esoteric chapter in the whole book, chapter 5, Gods above, spirits below. So a lot of people may not think by spirits below, this is all kinds of entities and all kinds of spirits. So, it talks about the elements and elementals. So that's the spiritual part of matter. The secret of metals. Tricksters. Tricksters is a really interesting one, because a trickster can be an entity as well. So that is really important inclusion, I think, for this. Then you get on to the actual operations of alchemy, which is chapter 6. It starts with stages, and this book has 3 stages of alchemy. There are other books of alchemy that will have 4 stages. This book has 3. That's fine, because quite a few alchemy books have 3 stages. I'm the kind of person, I'm okay with 3 stages. I'm also okay with 4 stages. So I kind of like the 4, but it doesn't matter because I really like this book. Then you have got what he calls 3 conditions, which are to do with the forces of nature. Then you have the actual operations or the methods of alchemy. Then you have chapter 7, which is called Making Gold. And he calls it the circulation through the elements. So he's talking about a circle, this, all of this actually being a circle. And how this is applied to, particularly to do with life and psychology. In chapter 7, this is about life cycles, turning out the individuated self, which is really becoming the true self. And life cycles does have a lot to do with it. It really does. I've just gone through a major life cycle turning point with a tower year. I've completed a whole tower year and I am rebuilding life foundations. And that is another reason why this book is really useful. And it's not only useful for that. It can be for people who are approaching that, people who are just wanting to be more self-aware and understand themselves more. And then he's got part of that chapter is also called Golden Rules. But like I said, there's so much in this book. Then he goes on to really, chapter 8 is a really unique part of this book. He goes through 10 different theories of different alchemists through time. He calls them recipes, the recipes for life. But they're really theories from different alchemists, and they are all taken from alchemical texts or alchemical inscriptions, which are part of the alchemical engravings and illustrations. So this is really unique to this book, and in a lot of ways, I find this the most helpful and informative and the most revealing part of the whole book. It's been really useful and will continue to be really useful. So we go through all of these 10 different theories that he calls recipes. He gives them all a title, and at the beginning of each one of the 10, there's an alchemical drawing. I'm going to show you some of these drawings in a moment. He gives a name for each of the 10. And like I said, it's just incredibly useful. It's really useful. It's really interesting. And then after that, because that's chapter 8, goes into all of the theories that he calls recipes. And then in chapter 9, he's got part of that here called Making Miracles, Making Mistakes. Making miracles is really making magic. Making mistakes, I think that's a really important inclusion, because you need to learn from mistakes, whether they're major or minor mistakes, but it is a learning thing. It's a learning thing, Then I suppose it helps you to appreciate making miracles or making magic more, it just making change. Change is also magic. And knowing that your own inner work has caused that and has contributed to that. The last chapter, chapter 10, is called The Heart of the Matter. He talks about alchemical practice, he talks about doubt and desire. That's a really interesting inclusion too. Doubt and desire. Those things are actually linked, and you wouldn't think so, but they can be. I think a lot of the time they are. And just before the conclusion, he makes a point of saying what he calls what the heart knows. So the heart of the matter, that's really important to conclude with that chapter. Then he's got notes on the images, which I was saying to you before, notes on these alchemical drawings, notes on the 10 theories or 10 recipes, notes on those. Then he's got your general notes and references, a bibliography. It's a really good bibliography. There is an index in here, which is always good, but there is so much in this book that I think the index should be twice as long. That's just me. I mean, I am really thinking of putting together my own additional kind of additions to the index, because there is just so much in here that I think it would be a little bit more useful. But that's just me. I mean, that's just a rather minor thing. There's the list of diagrams. And some of these are diagrams, other things are tables. He calls them all tables, but some of them are actually diagrams. That doesn't matter anyway. Okay, and he's got the tables. Oh, that's right. He's got a separate listing for diagrams, but he calls those figures, which I think is really strange. I wouldn't call it a figure. They're really diagrams. But anyway, that's okay. That's okay as well. I mean, I always put my own little notes in here as well, so it doesn't matter. I mean, it's all minor. Okay, so I'll show you some of the pictures that are in this book. They're black and white pictures. But this book is really, really useful. It's enlightening. It's informative. There's just so much in here. I just really like this book. And I'm always finding something else in here. That's why it's a great reference book, but you can make it a type of workbook if you want, and some people may want to journal with this book. I'm just going to show you some of the alchemical drawings that are in here. There's a lot of them actually, but I'm just going to find. For example, like I said, for a lot of the chapters, this one, try and find you one of some of the best ones. This is really, as a matter of fact, this is a really well-known one. This is a really important point, actually, I want to make for this picture, this alchemical drawing of the rose. The highlight of alchemy, the big period of alchemy was the Renaissance, and of course this is Rosicrucian as well. So that's why alchemy is so important, because magic and alchemy have always been tied in with each other. It all comes from the Renaissance period, which is the prime time. All of this was to do with the Renaissance. That's another fairly famous alchemical picture as well. I've coloured in that one a little bit, but it doesn't matter. They're all black and white, actually. I'm just trying to find the best examples in here. Because I haven't marked the pictures in here. Okay, this one, this is another one. These are really well-known alchemical drawings. Particularly like that one. And that one has the heart in it. So the heart and the rose. Still, I mean, look, all of these drawings are in here. I just want to try to find some of the best ones for you. Here's one. So that's a very Elizabethan, Renaissance picture. And the lion is there, the lion symbol. It's another important symbol. It's a picture of the drowned king. Another really important symbol. He's also got quite a bit written in here with these theories, initiation. Initiation it's all part of this. Another one here. These are really well known alchemical drawings. That's why it's really interesting to find out the details of the pictures at the back of the book. It's really worthwhile. Anyway, I think I've shown you most of the most important and most well-known of the alchemical drawings. Okay. Alchemical Psychology by Thom Cavalli. It's really worthwhile and still in print, as I mentioned before. It's really worthwhile, especially for people who not only want to know more about alchemy, but also how to apply that to their lives from a psychological perspective. And as I was saying, I think it's a really important foundation for people who do magical ritual work, or just anyone interested in alchemy from an esoteric point of view. Yeah, it's just a great book, and so I wanted to talk about it today to make people aware of the book in case you're interested. And it's a really worthwhile book. And I think I'll just mention the page count, because I did say there's quite a few pages in this book, but it's great. It's about 350 pages. Yeah, about 350 pages, but it's a great book. And it's really worthwhile. So I just wanted to let people know about the book in case you're interested in getting it. So I'll put some details below the video. Thanks for watching.